Welcome students, friends, family, and most importantly, veterans. I would like to start by recognizing all of those who have served for our country or who are actively serving. We thank you as a student body from the bottom of our hearts for everything you have done for our country and for us to keep our freedom. Your service never goes unappreciated, no matter what branch you served in or what your career pathway was or is. You have done so much for our country, and we will forever be grateful. Today is your special day, and we are here in this gymnasium to recognize what you have done for this country and to show how much we appreciate you veterans. Let's start our 2019 Veterans Day service.
God bless our native land. The words are on the street.
That our flag was still there.
You guys may be seated. Our guest speaker this year is Chad Little, an SLHS alum. Captain Chad Little served in the United States Air Force. Chad Little was born in Iowa City, Iowa, and grew up in Racine, Wisconsin. He graduated Shoreland Lutheran High School and received a Bachelor of Science degree in Atmospheric and Oceanic Sciences from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. He has a Master's of Business Administration and a Master's in International Relations, National Security Affairs from Troy University. In July 2000, he began his military training as an Air Force weather officer at Lackland Air Force Base, Texas, and technical training in Biloxi, Mississippi. From July 2000 to March 2002, he was assigned to Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, Arizona, as Officer in Charge of Joint, Multi-Agency, Counter-Drug, Nation Assistance, Disaster Relief, Humanitarian, and Embassy Operations. He was deployed to Iraq from 2002 to 2003 in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom and again in 2005. His honors include the Bronze Star, Air Force Commendation Medal, Army Commendation Medal, Air Force Achievement Medal, Army Achievement Medal, Distinguished Presidential Unit Citation, Air Force Outstanding Unit Award, Combat Readiness Medal, National Defense Service Medal, Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal, Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, Iraq Campaign Medal, Global War on Terrorism Expeditionary Medal, Air Force Expeditionary Ribbon, Air Force Longevity Service Award, Small Arms Expert Marksmanship Ribbon, and Air Force Training Ribbon. Let's welcome back to Shoreland Lutheran High School, Chad Little, with open arms and great respect. Please give Chad Little a round of applause.
First, let me say thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today and share with you some of my experiences and thoughts on this Veterans Day. Very fitting that you have a former weather officer here on a day like today. I thank you for making the trek out here. As a veteran, I really appreciate you having this event, and it's truly an honor to speak with you and to be in the presence of other veterans that were able to make it here today. To those veterans that were able to make it here today, I look forward to speaking with you and hearing more about your experiences. While we may not have served together, or in the same unit, or in the same service, or even in the same time period, it's amazing how when we talk, there's this amazing brotherhood. And similar to that of teammates, former teammates or distant relatives, I want to personally thank you for your service. How in the world did I end up here? Have you ever found yourself in a certain place asking this exact question? I'm almost certain that everyone in this room has, but in the outside chance that you haven't, there's little doubt that someday you will. Sometimes it's because of some good thing that has happened to you. The Lord may have blessed you in a certain way with an award. Perhaps you found yourself on the basketball court after a state championship or a conference title. Of course, the opposite can also be true. Perhaps you find yourself in a difficult or challenging situation. Maybe even you've asked yourself this very question while sitting outside Mr. Scriver's office getting ready to answer for a questionable decision you've made. Been there and done that. Although it's a different Principal Scriver back then. Many times our situation is a result of good and bad decisions we've made. Other times it can be decisions that our friends have made. Or even a choice, or that we've been influenced by our friends. Sometimes our situation is a result of decisions made by others that we may not even know or even have met. But no matter how you got there, you may find yourself sitting there going, how in the world did I end up here? On the night of March 20th, 2003, as an Air Force First Lieutenant, I remember asking myself this exact question. On this particular night, I was sitting in a line of Humvees with the rest of the 3rd Infantry Division on the border between Kuwait and Iraq. I remember sitting in the Humvee looking over at my 18-year-old Air National Guard driver who I had just met the day before, or a month before. It was his first deployment as well as it was mine. You kind of sit there in the pitch black, looking in awe. Your mind begins to wander and you look around a little bit. I remember looking down in my Humvee where we had packed sandbags and water bottles, thinking to myself, would these really actually help cushion a blow if we were to run over a landmine driving in the desert? I remember checking my Kevlar, making sure that I felt like it was covering the right spots, and then thinking, would it really actually protect me if I was shot at or hit by some shrapnel? I remember checking my M4, my M9, and thinking, I sure hope I put this thing back together correctly. In the desert, you have to take it apart frequently to clean it, and then put it back together, and then clean it, and then put it back together, and take it apart. I remember looking at my gas mask and our chemical gear, wondering, I sure hope this works if I need to use it. You know, you check it for leaks hundreds of times, you practice putting it on and taking it off, putting it back on. But in the back of your mind, you're really hoping you didn't have to test it out. As an officer, I thought back to the training that we did back at home. I looked at my team and thought, did I really prepare them for what was coming ahead? Was I even prepared for what I was going to do? So there you sit in the black, pitch black, in the middle of the desert. I'm sure everybody's mind is wandering around, thinking, feeling nervous, feeling anxious. I was surrounded by guys that I will forever be known to me are the guys I went to war with. Now, despite all that facts and uncertainty, we knew that the hour the observation posts along the border were going to be taken down, assuming last-ditch diplomatic efforts didn't fail. We knew that today was the day our mission was going to start. We were crossing that border and driving north. There was something kind of eerily exciting about it, while nerve-wracking at the same time. Adrenaline was certainly pumping, and it was go time approached. You kind of had that sort of pit in your stomach, like you do before a big game or an important exam. We believed we were ready. We were ready to execute the mission that was assigned to us. We were ready to win our battle of our time. But there was clearly an unknown in front of us. We were about to invade a hostile country to eliminate a threat to the United States and the rest of the world. So I go back, sitting in the Humvee, along the Iraqi border, getting ready to drive in with an infantry division, asking, how in the world did I end up here? So at this point, Chad, you might be thinking, Chad, what did you sign up for? What did you think you signed up for? Where else did you expect to be when war broke out? And if you're probably thinking that, it's probably a reasonable thing you should be asking. But I should remind you a few things about my background in the military. Maybe you read it, maybe you heard it. Did I mention I was in the Air Force? Did I mention I was a meteorologist? Yes, an Air Force meteorologist. There is such a thing. In fact, when the Army supports the Air Force, we're actually called combat weathermen. Little did I know when I chose my career field in the Air Force that it was also one that supported the Army. A detail that I'm sure I was unaware of when I agreed to that career field. In a minor detail, I ended up with this Air Force meteorologist sitting in a Humvee along the border of Iraq and Kuwait with an Army mechanized infantry division ready to invade a country. It's also an important detail that I should have been aware of when my wife and I were discussing what military life was going to be like before we got married and what would happen if war broke out. I still remember telling her not to worry too much. I was in the Air Force. I wasn't a pilot flying a plane, nor was I in the infantry. Chances are I would be back at the base briefing the pilot before they took off to go on their mission. I would likely be at the base where the aircraft departed from, and probably not in the war zone or on the battle line, like you see in the movies like Saving Private Ryan. And now 3 years into my young military career, 3 years after graduating from college and receiving my commission, I found myself sitting in that Humvee along the border of Iraq and Kuwait. How in the world did I end up here? You know, when that word came down, the observation posts along the border had been taken out by the military, the Army aircrafts, or Army attack helicopters we had briefed earlier in the day. It really didn't matter anymore how I got there. It was go time. I'll still never forget the visual of the night sky overhead with the tactical land-to-air missiles going over our head, going north to targets. For our unit, our ultimate objective was to reach Baghdad, specifically Baghdad International Airport, so we could set up a forward operating base. And we knew we weren't going home until we accomplished our mission. Over the next several weeks, we moved north. The armored forces would clear the way, and we moved the headquarters up right behind it, so we could prepare and plan the next day's mission. Sometimes we would set up tents in the middle of the desert. Sometimes it would just be a circle of Humvees. Sometimes we would set it up and tear it down right after we got done setting it up because we ended up moving faster than we thought, and we had to go forward again. We would sit there and try to unload our equipment, we'd have to turn around and load it right back up. We were trying to prepare our briefings for the next day so we could try to determine when the next sandstorm would be. You talk to any veteran who's been deployed to the Middle East, and I bet you'll never forget the first time they went through a sandstorm. The sky turns red. It's like being on another planet. Then when the storm hits, especially during the day, the sun's almost completely blacked out, and it becomes like night in the middle of the day. You can barely see the hand in front of your face. Our team's ability to predict the timing and duration of sandstorms was critically important to missions. If we could predict when that sandstorm would hit, or any other weather in fact, units could be prepared and ready for the conditions. We could protect our helicopters that are caused by damage from sandstorms. We could adjust our weapon systems for the conditions, or the mission based on the conditions that we were expecting. Not to mention sandstorms were typically when the enemy would try to attack. It not only reduced our visibility, but the enemy knew these conditions created havoc for us and for our weapon systems. Not to mention the conditions were just miserable. Wind blowing sand everywhere. I remember the night Saddam counterattacked, launching several Scud missiles throughout the country, including one towards our camp. Thankfully, the one that landed near our camp malfunctioned, and it had a missile it landed just outside of our camp, outside of our perimeter. Of course, that didn't stop the chemical alarms from going off, and our intel had informed us that Scud missiles had chemical weapons on them. So we immediately jumped into action, putting on our gear, implementing what we had been trained to do, and hoping we would never have to. We thank God when the all-clear message came with no chemical weapons being detected. There were more stories and experiences along the way that I could go on for hours, from unloading medevac helicopters with injured soldiers in the middle of the desert, to sleeping alongside the road or in a Humvee as you could hear bombs exploding in the nearby environment, to running out of water supply as the supply line struggled to keep up since we were moving ahead so fast, as the enemy began to disperse and fold under our overwhelming forces, to describing the faces of Iraqi citizens as we were cheering us on as we were headed north. For me, these are experiences that I'll never forget. Like many veterans will tell you, our lives are shaped by our military experiences. Combined with my Christian education, my military experiences made me the Christian leader that I am today. The military provided me real-world experiences and perspectives that I couldn't receive anywhere. I think back to discussions I had with members of my team who do not know their Lord and Savior, and how I was able to witness to them as they were thinking and struggling with their own mortality. Those who struggled being away from their families, those who struggle dealing with the stress and the unknown that lie ahead. You never know when the Lord will want you to use your training that you received today in this very Lutheran High School. You never know where the Lord will provide you that opportunity to witness. As much as we would like to think, every student here won't be a pastor or a teacher. But we do know the Lord will have a plan for each of us, and God will put us into situations for a particular reason. Maybe that's why He threw this Air Force officer into an infantry division. So let's go back to the question that we started with. How did I end up here? Like many veterans before me, many of us ended up in these situations because we wanted to be there. While I may not have thought I would end up in the forefront of an war, I certainly signed on the dotted line and took an oath to defend our Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, even to the point of death. So why do veterans do that? Well, every veteran has their own motivation, but no matter what that motivation is, military members are volunteering to leave their family and friends to defend our nation when our nation's leaders ask us to. It doesn't matter if that leader is a Democrat or a Republican. We don't serve to defend our nation. based on what political party our leaders are in. We serve to defend and protect our way of life and the people in the country we love. So what do I as a veteran think about on Veterans Day? Every year when Veterans Day or Memorial Day comes and goes, every time I stand for a national anthem at a ball game, and especially during the holiday season, I think about all those that served before me and about those that are still serving today. I reflect on my experiences and those that are going to be going through that today, or those that will do so in the future. I think back to some of the hardest parts about serving our country overseas. Things like saying goodbye to your spouse and kids. I remember saying goodbye to my wife Lori, my 17-month-old son Caleb, my 2-month-old daughter Hannah. It was going to be the first time I ever missed a Christmas. In fact, it was Hannah's first Christmas that I would be missing. I had no idea if and when I would come home again. I can still remember sitting on the couch, Lori taking pictures of me with the kids, knowing that this could be the last picture of them with me. I remember thinking this could be how they remember me for the rest of my life, the rest of their lives. This type of situation happens to almost every person that leaves to defend this great nation of ours. I thank God every day for protecting me and letting me come home safely. But I can't help think about my friends and team members that also came home, but were never the same again, and who continue to struggle with things like PTSD or life-changing injuries. I think about the comrades that deployed with me that never did come home. That is why I think about this in every Veterans Day. So before I close, I would like to wrap up with 3 additional comments for you on this Veterans Day. 1, in a world today where actual human face-to-face interaction is at a minimum, I would encourage you to thank a veteran in person when you have that opportunity. I know it can be awkward to talk with others, people you may not know, but I encourage you to gather up the courage, look them in the eye, and say thank you. I know this is a crazy concept, but you can even shake their hand, look them in the eye, and say thank you. I'm not saying you can't thank a veteran on Instagram or a Facebook post. Oh wait, that's for your parents. Text or Snapchats. Those are nice gestures as well. But when you have a chance, thank them in person. It means a lot to veterans. Even if you don't get the overwhelming "you're welcome" response back the first time, please don't give up. It means a lot. I know it always does to me. Number 2, I encourage you to learn about your country's military history and about some of the amazing veterans that served before us. I have a book about Medal of Honor recipients. It's an amazing, inspirational book about people who at times paid the ultimate sacrifice or performed amazing acts of courage to defend our nation and brothers in arms. There are amazing stories out there about people who put their country and safety of their comrades ahead of themselves. And lastly, during the holiday season, think about those that are still serving today and that are away from their families during this time of year, doing what they signed up to do and doing what their country has asked them to do, defending our nation, protecting our freedoms, and our way of life. Don't forget about the families of those that are serving as well. I know the challenges and stresses my family went through during the multiple times I deployed. And as you sit around the table this holiday season, add a prayer asking that the Lord provide these families the strength and perseverance to get through their deployment. And more importantly, that their loved ones come home. Again, thank you for this invitation to speak with you today. Thank you for having this ceremony to celebrate veterans. And lastly, thank you again for allowing me to share my experiences and thoughts on this Veterans Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Little, for your encouraging speech and service to our country. Now for the reading of Old Glory. I am the flag of the United States of America. My name is Old Glory. I fly atop the world's tallest buildings. I stand watch in America's halls of justice. I stand guard majestically over great institutions of learning. I stand guard with the greatest military power in the world. Look up and see me. I stand for peace, honor, truth, and justice. I stand for freedom. I am confident. I am arrogant. I am proud. When I am flown with my fellow banners, my head is a little higher, my colors a little truer. I bow to no one. I am recognized all over the world. I am worshipped, I am loved, and I am feared. I have fought in every battle of every war for more than 200 years. Gettysburg, Shiloh, Appomattox, San Juan Hill, the trenches of France, the Argonne Forest, Anzio, Rome, the beaches of Normandy, Guam, Okinawa, Japan, Korea, Vietnam, in the Persian Gulf, and a score of places long forgotten by all but those who were there with me. I was there. I led my soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. I followed them and watched over them. They loved me. I was on a small hill in Iwo Jima. I was dirty, battle-worn, and tired. But my Marines and sailors cheered me, and I was proud. I have been soiled, burned, torn, and trampled on the streets of countries that I have helped set free. It does not hurt, for I have been soiled, burned, torn, and trampled on the streets of my own country. And when it is by those I have served in battle with, it hurts. But I shall overcome, for I am strong. I have slipped the bonds of earth, and from my vantage point on the moon, I stand watch over the uncharted new frontiers of space. I have been silent witness to all of America's finest hours, but my finest hour comes when I am torn in strips to be used as bandages for my wounded comrades on the field of battle. When I fly at half-mast to honor my soldiers, my airmen, my sailors, my Marines, and when I lie in the trembling arms of a grieving mother at the graveside of her fallen son or daughter. I am proud. My name is Old Glory. Long may I wave, dear God, long may I wave. Now we'll continue with the Armed Forces Salute by our concert band.
When you hear your service song play, please rise and be recognized.
Thanks, Chad. Certainly thanks to all of the veterans here today. It's certainly a privilege and honor to have you with us. And certainly a great message for us as we listen to the, as young people, we don't know what God has in store for us. But thank the Lord, you have an opportunity to be in a place where we have a biblically grounded, Christ-centered, gospel-driven focus as you look to educate, equip, and encourage yourselves for whatever God brings in your life of Christian service. And certainly we have a lot of great examples of leaders out there, as our veterans are, willing to sacrifice a lot to make sure that we have our freedoms. And certainly that's the kind of service that we want to do in honor of our Savior as well. Thanks to all who made the assembly a great opportunity to honor our veterans today. And veterans and family and guests, if you want to just stay seated here for a little while, I'm going to let the students go. Before I do that, one more thing I wanted to mention is Chad made note of saying thanks and supporting veterans, and we have an opportunity that we're embarking on to Be a Hero to a Hero campaign, providing houses for homeless veterans. You can see where you have an opportunity, a website where you can contribute. And what you do is go to the website and then go to the Shoreland team. And our goal is to raise $6,720 in the next month or so, so that we can support one homeless veteran for a year. So I think that's something that we can certainly do. Shaking hands and looking people in the eye is a wonderful thing. And this is an opportunity from afar that you can do to support those that have served in the armed forces. So I'd encourage you to think about that. All the young people on the bleachers can do that as well, and see if we can support one veteran for a year. All right, Students, we're going to let you go because your buses are going to be here. God's blessings to you on the rest of this Bible Sunday.